Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Power of Connection podcast. I'm your host, Christy Renee, and this is the podcast that equips you with actionable strategies so that you can become a storytelling and communication powerhouse. This will help develop what I call magnetic communication. And today we're talking about how to gain the competitive edge by learning the language of your audience. And you've heard me say it once, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. We are in a new era of business, and what used to work just doesn't anymore. So in order to gain the competitive edge, you got to mix things up a bit. If you want more information about that, the blog is out. It talks about all of the tips and stats and really everything you'd want to know so that you're on the same page and telling everybody you know that we are in a new era of business as well. So today, we're talking about learning the language of your audience. And the reason that this is important is because even though we have entered into such a digital transformation of our world, it maybe because of that, the need for personal connection is higher than it's ever been. And so I know I've talked to a lot of you and everybody's kind of mirroring the same experience back, that it doesn't really seem like they know that they're posting and they have to do marketing strategy and blogs and YouTube and social media and being everywhere all the time. And you're like, does it even make a difference, right? Like, you're not seeing that same level of engagement, and that's okay. People are still there and it still goes out, but it can be a lot of work unless you understand what your strategy is. So today, by the end of this episode, you will understand how to simplify your content strategy, all your marketing strategy really, and how to build trust and why it's so important and how it's gotten to be so hard to earn. And also, you will learn how to communicate in a way that makes your message memorable. Now, as we dive into things, we're going to talk about how to communicate in a way that, as I say, pulls at the heartstrings, right? And I say that because when you get to the heart of an issue and you speak in the language that lets somebody know that you understand whatever they're feeling, that bridges such connection and shared understanding, and that is the foundation for trust. And so for me, this comes really naturally because I am such an empath, and I didn't know what an empath was for most of my life. I will walk into any room and feel the emotions of every person around me, and that was really confusing for a long time, but I've figured out how to make it into a superpower. But what was hard for me to learn was brevity and speaking with potency. And so it's this intersection of being really empathetic in your language, but understanding how to be potent and concise. That intersection is really what makes magnetic communication. The first tactic that I'm going to talk about today is the 5 whys. And this is a helpful practice if you need to get to the root of something and you're dealing with somebody who's a little factual, I guess is a nice way to put it, if they can just be a little bit stoic. And so let's imagine that, like, when I talk about this, one of my past clients is coming to mind, and they had a really rich family history. It was a family enterprise that had made it very, very big. And you know, I'm like laughing just thinking about it and all the work that we did and how powerful it was because we really worked on getting to the heart of things in their communication. And I loved that process of almost helping them come out of their shell. And so if you can understand this, or maybe you're like this yourself, practice along with me, be thinking along as you go ahead. So the 5 whys, it would look like if I were to ask you something kind of surface level, or get a surface level answer back. So, why should employees work for your company? Well, we have best in class benefits and great pay. Okay. Everyone has best in class benefits and great pay. So you want to get deeper than that. Well, why is that important? So that's the first why. Oh, well, because when you have great pay and great benefits, it gives you more flexibility and, more freedom. Okay, well, second why is flexibility and freedom important? Well, when you have flexibility and freedom, you can spend time with the people that you love. Okay, we're getting to the heart of something now. So, when you spend time with people you love, why is that so important? Well, when you're spending time with the people you love, that's what life's all about. You have time to be present with them. You have time to connect with them. You have time to make memories with them. Oh, okay. So through that exercise, we went from saying something very surface level, everybody wants competitive, great pay, competitive benefits, but it's not enough anymore just to announce those things because everybody's pretty much in the same place. So by dropping down and getting to the root of things and understanding the emotional drivers, you can start to craft messages that land in a much better way, that build trust, that feel good to share. And you're going to notice that this will simplify your efforts because you have that emotional, place to stand on. And it's funny, I planned on talking about 4 steps today, and something else is coming to my mind that I feel like I have to share. And it's around this. I've been hearing it. I hear it all the time, and I've really been hearing it a lot lately. People are telling me, like, well, Christy, that's great. You have such a great story to tell, but I don't have a story like that. I don't have a story. And whether you're a business owner or an entrepreneur or you're a professional, your story can really, really help you grow. And my advice to anybody that's listening that feels the same, like I don't have a great story to tell, I would say train yourself to get in the habit of seeing stories or thinking in stories. And so there is a story arc. And every great story has it. You may have heard of the hero's journey, which is like a storytelling I don't want to say framework, but it's just like this description of every great story from mythology to movies to great novels. They have a story arc, and you start with an obstacle, and then you have a challenge, and then eventually everything is resolved. And so you can start looking at every single obstacle that comes into your life as a story waiting to be told. And so when something bad happens, if you can look for the universal metaphor, something that applies to all of us, the great lesson that you've learned. Now, this is storytelling at its finest, and it does a couple things for you. It helps to make your energy way better because you're not getting stuck in, oh, this bad thing happened. It helps you become more relatable. It helps you be seen as somebody that they can trust and have authority, because the best leaders are the ones that know that obstacles and adversity are just part of the process. So if you can train yourself that every bad thing that happens, or every unexpected thing, or something doesn't go your way, what's the lesson in that? And that trains you to become a better storyteller. That just felt really important to share for those listening right now. So you can get in the habit of asking these 5 whys and to help get more to the heart of an issue. You can tap into your storytelling prowess, and anytime something bad happens, you can practice that as a story to tell. Now, the next one is one of my favorite ones to talk about because this really helps you tap into the present moment and tell stories in a much more, captivating kind of way. And so when you get emotive with your language, and that's triggering the senses, the 5 senses, you transform in more way than one. And I remember a few years ago, I was still deep in my personal development, personal healing journey, and really doing some deep work that involved generational healing. And if any of you have been in a deep growth process, you can probably relate to the feeling of like, man, all this healing is really killing me. That is the stage that I was in. And it felt like, I remember one day in particular, I was going through it and I could feel all the feelings. And it's like, I remember there's this feeling that you can start to pinpoint when you're going through this growth journey, and it feels like you're being ripped open from the inside out, or like a hot knife blade is just like slicing through you. are actually the old patterns and behaviors of thought that are being ripped from your programming. So of course it's going to feel like that. And I knew that logically, but I still needed some helping hands to get out of that really stuck feeling. And so I remember the weather was so nice. The sun was shining, but it was still cold out. Like one of those days you can wear a tank top and jeans or hoodie and shorts, hot and cold at the same time. And I hung up my favorite teal and black hammock that I had gotten as a gift. And I just let the gentle sway soothe me while I was trying to just be like, okay, this is ripping out of me and I am fine and everything's fine. And I started a practice that day that has become such a helpful tool at being a more emotive and captivating storyteller. And the way that it works is you were to close your eyes. You want to do it with me right now? Take a nice deep breath. And you would start to notice what you hear in your environment. And now, obviously, you probably hear me, my voice. Okay, that's one. But maybe if you drop deeper and listen harder, maybe there's a car outside. Maybe a bird. Maybe you can hear noises of your house. A hum, someone walking. So you can practice tuning in, tapping inward, and hearing what you hear. Now, I remember opening my eyes and asking myself, what did I see? Clouds in the sky, the hammock swaying. And now two things happened. One, it dropped me into the present moment so deeply that all of that feeling, that ripping, that hotness, that slice, all of those feelings were able to melt away because I had the clarity that in this moment, I am present and I am safe. So this is a really good tactic to help multiple areas of your life. Help you be more present, helps you be more connected, whether that's to yourself or to others. And to be connected to others, you must first be connected to yourself. So dropping in and being present is such a good practice to help get you into the habit of noticing these elements that make a good story. Because something happens to your brain chemistry when your senses get evoked through story. Now, if you want to see this in action, you could pause this right now, rewind to where I start talking about generational healing, and you could see that an image comes to your mind when I'm talking. And the line between my experience and your experience, as you imagine yourself in this, that line begins to blur. And the distinction between you and me tends to drop away. And that is how you can use communication to tell a better story. Can you see? Now, the third one I want to talk about, or fourth, because I added, and now we're at 5, is you want to hear it from them. And what I mean by it is not just what your audience would say about you, your product, or their challenges or desires. It's also how they say it, paying attention to that language. And so a lot of marketers will use the sentence. They will say, to get in touch with this, think about what keeps your target audience up at night. And I say, that is such an outdated technique because most of the people staying awake at night have far bigger problems that they have on their mind and like 80,000 problems that they have on their mind. And your product, your service, whatever it is, your singular thing is not going to solve what keeps everybody up at night in this day and age. And saying something really over the top, like you used to see everywhere years ago, this product will change your life. That's going to break trust more than it's going to build it. So the best way you can get in touch with actual specific ways that your customers or clients' daily lives will be better thanks to you is through market research. And you can guide them through an interview. Maybe you interview happy clients or customers. And oftentimes these testimonials, they're happy to give, and you can use them as great marketing collateral. But I want you to go a little bit deeper. When you ask for these testimonials, you're in this conversation, and refer back to the 5 whys that we talked about, and refer back to the sensory exercise we just went over, and see if you can guide them into getting to something that's much more emotive. Because it's not just enough to say, oh, they're frustrated by their, marketing efforts. Okay, yeah, we all are, and everybody probably solves that. But if you start saying, connection and authentic expression and doing what brings you joy and feeds your energy, if you start getting more into these emotional feelings, I promise you it's going to make a big difference. And finally, if you want to guide them just a little bit more, if you're not getting the richness of information that you want, you can tap into the 4 F's. How will their finances, their faith, their friends, and their family lives get thanks to you and your service? Now, when we go into month 2, we'll be talking about even more tactical communication tactics like handling objections out the gate. But for now, I want you to practice these techniques and get really clear on how to tap more into language that pulls in the heartstrings, and get in this practice. And then as you start going through this, you will have different phrases that jump out at you, and I want you to go test and refine them. Because you learned how to connect emotionally, now let's test the phrases that work the best. And so my favorite practice of doing this is suggesting that you go out, get out of your comfort zone, go out into your community, pick 3 networking events that all have a similar audience, like a chamber of commerce. Pick 3 in your metro area. And the reason that this is important is because if there are 2 different of audiences, there's too many variables and you won't have clear testing data. So pick 3 similar events with 3 similar audiences and go out and give 3 pitches. Now, the first one, just to see for experiment's sake, you can do it exactly the way you would have done it before ever hearing this episode. You can give the outdated elevator pitch. And I say that the elevator pitch is outdated because nobody cares who you are or what you do until you give them a reason to care. So when you do your pitches, you can start the first way, or you can start testing immediately. And I want you to look around the room and notice the eyes on you. Notice the eye connection. Are people looking at you? Are they looking down? Are they fidgeting? Have you pulled them in? Are they nodding? How many people afterwards come up and want to get your card? Then, whatever kind of emotional language tested the best, you can start using that to simplify your strategy and know what to focus on and create content around these emotional stories that you've been told and tested. And so, as we wrap up today's episode, just remember that humans have a natural, innate need to be seen, to be heard, and to connect. And if you follow these 4 storytelling strategies, you will be well on your way to magnetic communication that pulls people in, builds trust quickly, and leaves memorable impressions. So I hope you're feeling clearer on how to simplify your strategy, how to build trust, and how to get a message that is remembered. As your action this week, I want you to pick between 1 and 4 of the strategies that I shared and go out into the world and use these. Share it with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Let me know. Thanks again for tuning into the Power of Connection podcast. If this resonated, please leave a review and share it with somebody. And remember that words are the bridge to connection, so use them intentionally. I'm Christy Renee, your host, signing off. I'll see you next week.